Welcome back to another episode of the Blacklist Podcast. Today, we are thrilled to have Steve Knapp joining us. He's the co-founder and co-host of Through the Glass Recovery, a podcast that delves deep into the world of recovery. Steve isn't just a voice on the airwaves. He's also a dedicated recovery coach, helping individuals navigate their journey towards healing and sobriety. Today, we'll get to hear about Steve's own experiences with recovery, the inspiration behind starting the podcast, and the impact his work is having on others. This episode, along with a host of other inspiring stories, can be found at theblacklistpodcast.com. Without further delay, Steve Knapp. Joining us from Ontario, Toronto, ladies and gentlemen, let's extend this warm welcome to Steve Knapp.
Right on.
Yo, normally my intros, I'm like, boom, I ask everybody, I make sure all my stuff's in there, and I realize, you know what, I didn't ask where you were from.
That's cool.
Well,
That's cool.
Steve, welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Man, the funny thing, in the very beginning when I started this, I was very picky. I was like, don't bother me, don't call me, don't text me, don't open the door, like nothing. And I would edit out any little imperfection, and I realized after doing this for a year and a half, like, no, you know what? Life happens. I've had people's kids come in and, hi, how are you? And I'm like, hey, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
So I realized, like, life happens, and I'm just, you know what? I just run with it. So I don't edit a lot of stuff, to be honest with you.
That's cool. I don't edit out too much either on ours, so I completely get it. I got my littles in the other room. They'll probably be good unless they need something, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
They're good kids.
Yeah, I got the ones upstairs. They're not my kids, my girlfriend's kids, but of course she's at work tonight, so but they're old enough to take care of themselves. And they know we do this 4 times a week. They know, stay upstairs, only come down if you absolutely need something type deal, because my office, our studio we're like Harry Potter. It's a closet under the stairs, but
amazing.
It works.
Amazing.
Though.
That's okay. My studio is my bedroom. So yeah. Same thing. It works out great.
If we were able to get the Ethernet cord probably upstairs to our bedroom, we probably would have it in our bedroom, but this works out. It's a little tight for both of us in here, but it's okay. We make do.
Right on.
So yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. I think we're in a group chat, and somebody was saying that you guys were looking for some guests. Who was it? Sonia? I think Sonia.
Yeah, it was Sonia. We had Sonia on the podcast, and then she threw it out in a group chat saying we were looking for some guests. Oh, we're always looking for some guests. Probably just like you.
Absolutely. Like, even though we're booked out, 4 to 6 weeks, like, we are always looking for guests. And, you might have, those listening, you might have to wait a couple months, but we're always looking for guests, definitely. And we book really fast. So, like, when I talk to somebody and they say, they generally have to book within, like, the couple days, because it fills up so fast. Yep.
I feel you. We book out in, we start in the middle of January, and then once I start sending out messages, those slots fill up really quickly. You get all the selection at the beginning, and then as it starts to narrow out, and it gets a little bit harder to fill, but it's all good. Yeah. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I'll be talking to like 2 potential guests at the same time, giving them the links, and I tell them, as top of my head, this, and this is available. And then maybe an hour, 2 hours later, I'm like, no, that's unavailable now. You got to do this. It's the nature of the beast, man.
Nature of the beast. Yep.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I didn't know you guys were in Canada. So, it's funny how many people are in Canada.
Yeah, I'm seeing more and more now on social media. I'm in Canada. My co-founder, Julie, she's in Colorado.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a whole part of the story.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like me and Brianna, we're here in New York, and then our other co-host Swag, like, he's in Detroit. And so that's just kind of the way it is,
That's the way it is now, I think, with how recovery and social media and the online presence that exists. You kind of meet people from all over the place now.
Yeah, it's crazy, because it's like, 5 years ago, there wasn't, when I started thinking about doing this, there wasn't that there was hardly any recovery platforms out there, like podcasts and whatnot. And now it's like they're popping up everywhere. But a lot of the ones that I've been on and I've made friends with and had them on our show are from Canada.
That's crazy. There's a big recovery. I'm starting to find this out. There's a big recovery population in Canada that like to recover out loud, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It is really cool. And as much as I would love to do this podcast in person, this is a really good way to do it. I think now a lot of podcasts, and if you're not making millions of dollars off your podcast with millions of views and this, that, and the third, doing it in person, you're doing it like this, just
Right.
streaming, and that no matter what platform that, with recording software you're using, it's all the same thing. But I would love to do the whole in person thing. I really would, but that's really expensive. And of course, you got to have your studio. You got to, fly your guests, this, that, and the third. It's crazy.
Yeah, it'd be pretty wild though.
It is.
One day, man, one day.
I had the opportunity November. I went to Connecticut and shared my story on Ian Bick's podcast. He's got a podcast, Locked In with Ian Bick. And
Yeah,
it's top 200 across all genres on Apple. And my episode dropped the other day, on Thursday, and part of it, like, it's already over 1 million views on like TikTok and different things like that. But that was the most professional setup I had ever been on. Like, this was legit,
that
full
had to be
blown
like, wow.
crazy. Like I documented GoPro everything, and it was just like, wow, this is probably the biggest moment of my career, and
I saw the post.
it was crazy. So, but it was really cool. It was a really cool opportunity to be able to do that. But I would love to do that. I really would. But there's just, man. I mean, maybe down the line it could happen, but as of right now, this is the way it's got to be, and it works because we can have people from all over the world. It doesn't matter where you're from. So yeah, man, thank you for coming on today. Appreciate it. Looking forward to being on your guys's as well, and learning. Excited to get to learn a little bit more about you, and I know we're gonna
Yeah.
have Julie on next week. Next week. Now people that
Yep.
are listening to this, it's already gonna be past that, but that's the one thing when you're like talking in real time on this, and when our episodes drop, 6 weeks from now or this or that, and I tell people, so today is Saturday, but you're listening to this 2 months ahead, and we're in the past.
Best we could do, man. Best we could do.
Exactly. So yeah, man, so why don't we just jump in? So, like, kind of tell us a little bit about your childhood. Kind of, how was your childhood like? Kind of what led you into your addiction and whatnot.
Well, I think when I go back and I look at it, like a childhood, I had your typical childhood. Grew up I have a sister, mom and dad. Mom and dad are still together, not divorced. We moved around a bunch of times for my dad's work. I had, and I think where it all starts is I had childhood epilepsy. So that kind of made me the weird kid, because I would have mini seizures while I was in class. And so you can imagine a kid in school who, in the middle of nowhere, his head would go to the side and he'd shake and vibrate. I could still talk and see and all the rest of it, but I had no control over it. And I'd lose control over my head for 30 seconds and then carry on. But that would happen in the middle of class. That would happen. I played hockey, and that happened while I was on the ice. Right. So I had to literally let everybody know in my life that, I would walk up to my teachers and tell them that, just in case, because
Right.
that would happen. So you get, I got teased more than I would have liked to, bullied quite a bit. Even when I was young, I remember lying to try and get attention. So fast forward a little bit, I had 3 grand mal seizures, because this will be part of everything. I had 3 grand mal seizures in one day when I was at 15. And
Mm.
after I had those 3 Grand Mal, and like I was on medication for a good while after that, put me back on the medication, and mom was adamant, if you don't drink on this medication or it's not going to work. And I was deathly terrified. I was so terrified of having another seizure that I got to the point where I almost didn't want to get my license. Like my mom had to convince me to get my driver's license, even though I had my doctor's approval to do it. I was 15. So fast forward to 18, 19 in Canada, 18, you can drink, and I still didn't drink. So now I feel left out and that sort of thing. I
You
mean,
hadn't done anything.
I hadn't done anything. I didn't smoke. Like I had smoked like maybe 2 joints at that time, like nothing. And so I was clean, straight as a whistle, like not even a straight A student. Like I struggled in school and all that stuff. I went to college, graduated college. While I was in college, I started hitting up the bar scene. So 18, 19 years old, I started getting to the bar scene and feeling left out. So I would have one drink, right? Because I was just terrified. And then I kind of got that courage to get up on the dance floor and dance and like be a part of the thing. And then once I had enough, I just didn't care what everyone else thought. So that was really cool to me. And so I still like tried to really, it wasn't a problem then. It was just kind of the solution. And then so I graduate college, and then I get into starting to work, and I started working in a factory as a process operator. And so I worked shift work, and so like my family was the same people that worked the same shift as me, and then we'd get out and party, and that's where my drinking my drinking really kicked off, because I would start getting really drunk with all the guys and partying and that sort of stuff. And I call them like my green light moments. Because my childhood, I figured it was fairly normal, like stable household, and other than moving around a lot, so never really having steady friends. Uh, and then, so back to the work, I was like, okay, I'm kind of concerned about the whole epilepsy and seizures thing. I hadn't taken any medication in like a year after I started working. Okay, I should call my doctor and see what my doctor thinks about um, my epilepsy, and should I go and see a specialist, and should I go and get checked out, like what's going on there. And my doctor said, if you haven't had one since you were 15, and I hadn't even had a small one, a minor one, uh, just keep doing what you're doing. I was drinking a fair amount.
Mm.
So right away, that just like lit the bells. You know what I mean? I can drink all I want now because I don't have anything to worry about. I have doctor's permission, essentially. Even though I didn't tell the doctor, like I was drinking and doing all of this stuff, he never asked.
Yeah.
Right?
So you weren't lying or anything.
No, and I wasn't looking for permission. I think maybe I was looking for permission to like continue on, but I needed to, alleviate that concern. So I did. Doctor alleviated that concern. So I stopped being concerned about having another seizure completely. And so I'd have late nights and I'd get drinking, and I got promoted while I was at work. So I went from on the floor guy to a supervisor. So then I became the boss of all of my friends, right? And the people that I worked with. So I shut down my social media because I was afraid of what everyone thought about me, the whole rumor mill at work and that sort of thing. And I got married in my late 20s, and my drinking was bad then. I remember my wife asking me to not get drunk at our wedding so I could remember it.
Mm.
So if I look back, it was already a problem before I hit 30.
Yeah.
And So shortly
Well,
after that, what's that?
what was like, so, okay, so she asked you in like that certain circumstance, not to get drunk on your wedding. But aside from that, how did she feel about your drinking?
I don't. She never really voiced too much of a problem with it. Like she was pretty. I think she was afraid to talk about it too. But back then, I don't think it was really that much of a problem. It was just kind of part of everyday life. It
Yeah.
wasn't. I I binge drank on days, certain days.
Okay.
Like I had
Yeah.
planned days. Night before my night shift, I would drink a whole crap ton because I could sleep it off all day and then go into work. Even if I was hungover, I could make it through that night shift and then straighten back out after. So I had like every 9 days, I had one massive binge drinking night where I would start during the day kind of thing after lunch and then just go right to like 4 in the morning until I passed out.
So when you had those binge drinking days, though, she still never really voiced anything on that?
No, no. And most of the time she was sleeping. And then when she wake
Okay.
up, I was sleeping because I was supposed to be sleeping. So I mean the
Yeah.
timing of it all really worked really,
Right.
really well to for it to not be a thing
Right.
of concern because it never really got in the way of anything. So I mean on our wedding night I was drunk.
Really.
I still got drunk on our wedding night.
Did you
Uh,
remember it though?
I do remember my wedding. I was still drunk, but I was
Yeah.
I was young enough, I think, at that point where it was not as it was still more of the solution than it was the problem.
Right.
Um, so the second green light kind of moment, uh, I'll say I got promoted again at work. So I went from supervisor to in charge of like half the operation of the facility. So I took on a lot more responsibility. I then we went to a work hockey tournament. I went to that hockey tournament. We had the bus and the whole thing and the first time I ever had a beer while I was driving. And I wasn't driving, but while I was in a vehicle was having a roadie on the way to the hockey tournament. So that opened the door in my mind that I could drink while I was in a vehicle. And that became okay. So I had that kind of green light moment, but I never took advantage of it. But I had begun to drink while I was a passenger, sitting in the back seat or whatever it was. I'd have ice fishing weekend, and then I'd sit in the back. Dad would drive, and I would drink Fireball with a buddy in the back seat.
Mm.
So it began to seep into all of the places where it wasn't supposed to seep into.
Yeah.
And like I was living two separate lives. At work, I smoked like a chimney, and at home, I didn't smoke. And at work, I had the one life at work and with those people at work, and I would freak out anytime my wife would get anywhere close to the people at work because I didn't want her to know what was going on there, and I didn't want them to know what was going on at home. Right. So I'm still trying to like juggle and hold all of that together. I'm on call. I'm responsible for all of the like half the operation of the facility, the maintenance, all of that stuff, scheduling it, you name it. So um, I get that. I have my first kid, and as much as I love her to death, when I had my first kid, I I almost hated, I resented her for taking away all of my free time and my freedom
Mm.
because that changed my life. As much as I loved her, everything changed, and I was just getting into diving really deep into my alcoholism,
Mm.
and like that still hurts today to say.
Right. Did your wife know that you felt that way?
No, not at all. Like I believe in uh male what do you call that, postpartum.
Yeah.
I think it can happen on both sides.
Okay.
And uh I think that's kind of what happened to me on top of, the extra drink. I drank, my drinking doubled after she was born because I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to handle having that freedom ripped away, and I didn't know how to handle communicating that with my wife, and I didn't so it wasn't shortly after that. So a friend bought me a bottle of booze, and I didn't bring it back into the house. And one day I was driving to work because I had permission to drink. Now in the vehicle, I was having a bad day, and I opened the bottle of booze. I wasn't even a heavy booze drinker because it would make me sick. And I opened that bottle of booze, and from that day, I started drinking booze while I was driving.
Wow.
Like that just flicked the switch. I could drink and drive and drink the hard stuff. So, like, another green light, here we go. Permission. That's what I needed, was permission to do stuff, and as long as I never got caught, I had to, keep all the pieces of the puzzle together. Neighbors
Did
thought
it
we had.
ever?
Go ahead.
Sorry, no, sorry. I'll ask my question after you're finishing what you said.
Yeah, neighbors thought we had everything together. Like on the outside, everything looked really good.
Yeah.
Right. I had the house out in the country, the new cars, the two kids, because we had a second one a year and 20 months later.
Okay. So did you ever consider the fact that did drinking and driving that would be an issue, or did it even cross your mind that you could get into an accident or kill somebody or yourself or anything?
I remember thinking that my moral compass is fucked. Like
Yeah.
the way that I'm operating is wrong.
Right.
And then I would just put it away. I would be like, as long as nobody sees me, then it doesn't really happen, or it doesn't really exist. It's just me. So, like, my truck became my sanctuary.
Yeah.
That was my safe place. So I'd make up excuses, all of the stuff. I'll kind of move past the
Yeah.
drunkalog part, and we'll get into um
Before you hop into that next thing, when you had your second child, how was your feeling toward that child? Was it anything like your first?
no, actually I still resented my first child because she was
Really?
the one that changed everything.
Okay.
Uh I still drank more and more. So I would drive to work, and I would drink a third of a bottle on my way to work, and I would drink a third of a bottle on my lunch hour. I would hop in my truck and go for a drive, and then I would drink a third of the bottle on my way home to pick my kid up from daycare.
Did anybody at work know that you were like hammered?
There was probably a couple people that, and when I came out, there was a couple people that turned around and said, "I thought you had a problem," but nobody. Most of the time, after I came out a year, when I was a year sober, I posted on Facebook, and I really, everyone at work really knew, and
Okay.
um, most of the people came up to me and they were like, "I had no idea."
It's
And
crazy to
so
think that. It really is crazy to think like, because then it's kind of like the thought kind of crosses your head at times like, okay, what if somebody did really notice it and they pulled you aside and sat you down and was like, what the fuck's going on? And then it's almost like, would not saying it would, but would that have might have changed your view on certain things? It's always that what if, but that's the way the world is. It just, we're over here struggling and we're just dying, and they just, like any other day, hey, how's it going? Just water cooler talk.
there's one guy who had the courage to come up and say something to me, and mention that, like, people were kind of smelling booze on me, and I was like, I have no idea what I wasn't even ready to hear it.
Mm.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, that's not really a thing. They must have been smelling something else. he was like, all right, well, I just thought I would mention it to you. And I smoked like a chimney, and smoking like a chimney was one of those things. And I drank flavored booze because I thought, it wouldn't be as strong on my breath.
Right.
And like it got so bad that there was the one time I went and picked my daughter up at daycare, and I was hammered at picking her up at daycare, and I picked her up, and this was my youngest, this is my oldest, so my first, and I had picked her up, and I just picked her up too fast, and she pushed off, and she went right over my shoulder.
Ooh.
And like to this day, I can still hear the slap of her hitting the ground, and
She okay?
yeah, oh yeah, she was fine. And I can still hear her scream, and I still remember, like, this is how messed up it gets, right? Is you're concerned about the kid, but you're concerned about being caught all at the same time. And so I hurried up, and I kept myself away from everyone, and I packed her up, and I drove the back way home, and I went and bought her some French fries because I knew that was something that she liked. And I just got home, and I cried, and I didn't want to take her to the hospital because I was trashed. So I slept out on the floor in front of her room for the night. I didn't go into work the next day because I didn't get any sleep that night, and I was also even more drunk because I didn't know how to deal.
Right.
But like, there's some not very proud moments. That was one of them, and like I should have taken her to the hospital, and thank God she's fine. She's great.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Cause just
smart as a
imagine,
whip.
like you think about like what if,
Oh,
bleeding and then turn, concussions and all this, especially because how old was she?
like 2 years.
Yeah. So she's still
Still
baby.
way too young. Still way
Yeah.
too young. Yeah. And oh
Well, thank
yeah,
God
like
she's good.
yeah, yeah. It's a mistake I never I only made once, luckily. Even
Yeah.
when they were in the vehicle, because I would drink and drive with them in the vehicle. They'd fall asleep, and I would be like, they're never gonna know, right? They can't tell on me. As long as they couldn't tell on me, I was good. I had all the permission in the world. The
How do
last
you
year
look?
of my Go ahead.
How do you look back at now? And how do you look back at that now and just like I'm sure it just wrecks you because you
It's
just
sad, Jared. It's sad.
yeah.
Like,
The shit that we do in front of our children or with our children while we're because I've had
yeah,
some very unpleasant moments and you
yeah,
think about it now and you're just like how was I that low, like
yeah.
it's disgusting, and it brings me to tears to think about that shit.
My kids are 6 and 8 now, 7 and 8. Sorry. And I miss the first like 6 years of my oldest's life. I can go back in those pictures, and like it's really hard for me to say the words like I'm a good father because there's 6 years of that I don't feel like I was. Um, and I'm not proud of it by any means. And then when I look back on it, it still in some ways breaks my heart. Like no kid deserves to be treated that way. But here I am, still trying to hold things together. I'm still holding down the job. I'm doing all of these other things, and as time goes on, life just starts holding on by more and more of a finer thread. The spider web starts getting pulled, and for the last year of my drinking, and that was COVID too, so it made things even easier. For the last year, I like I woke up almost every morning, and I threw up, like shakes, the whole deal. And I don't know how I and I remember there was times I would just sit on the floor and cry just in a puddle, and I words couldn't even come out of my mouth. And you know my wife, she had hid the booze because she knew I you know I I would drink it, if it was available. And so then I just hid my own booze. But by the time it was all said and done, she found my credit card bill and she turned around to me and she waited a whole day. She waited for the friends and family to leave, and then we were both sitting in bed, and she turned around and she handed me my credit card bill, and she said, "Can you explain this?" And I looked at it, and there was like $900, just under $900 worth of booze for a month on the credit card bill, with like, I think I counted it 17 or 18 stops at the liquor store. That doesn't even include smokes. And
were you already accepted that you were an alcoholic?
I had no, like, I
At what
think
point did you realize that, like, I'm an alcoholic?
That moment.
Okay.
I never got to the point where I thought I had a big enough problem where I thought I needed to stop, except for like I was laying on the floor, and when I was laying on the floor, I wanted the pain to stop. I wanted my boss to stop being an asshole, and I wanted my wife to stop nagging me, and I wanted things to start going my way. Like I didn't want to die myself. I wanted other people to get hurt or not be in my life. That's where I was at. And so when she showed me the credit card bill, and she said to me, she goes, I was drunk when she did this, but I woke up. I said no. Like I looked at that long and hard, and she was like, "Do you have anything to say?" And I was like, "No, this is." I thought long and hard, because I could have blamed it on a buddy, because we both knew that a friend of mine also had a problem, and I could have been buying him booze, and that's what she was hoping for me to say, and that was the point where the lie got too big to carry. Like it was either throw my friend under the bus and try and figure out a way to weasel myself out of that one, which I couldn't bring myself to doing. So I just had to admit to it. And so I never lost my job. I never lost my like inactive. I never lost any of that stuff. I still had the position at work where I was in charge of half the facility, still trying to like, I hate the term high functioning alcoholic, because I think it's like a misnomer, right? I'm still functioning. I'm just masking my problems. Yeah. I'm still capable of doing enough, but that was falling apart too. Like I wasn't a good employee. I wasn't living up to my expectations at work. Anyways, so that was the moment where I said, no, that was me. That was my problem. She asked me, and I just started telling her the truth. She started asking me questions, and I started telling her, she asked me if I had booze in the truck. I had booze in the truck. I just started like emptying out the things that I was holding in. Like
how did you feel? Did you feel better to do that? Did it make you feel good?
I felt sick to my stomach, but there was like the ultimate relief in that backpack full of shit started emptying. Like,
yeah, you didn't have to hide it no more.
I didn't have to. Yeah, like it was heavy enough as it was, and so I had bottles in the truck, and my last drinks were telling her that I quit, and then she said, "Go and dump the bottles out of the truck." And so I walked out to the truck, and there was 3 bottles, and like the alcoholic that I was, I made 3 separate trips. Each trip, one to get 1 bottle, to drink as much as I could before I dumped it out, to get the other one, crack it open, drink as much as I could before I dumped it out, and the last one I did the very same thing, right at the and right at the kitchen sink. I looked at that bottle and I was like, this is it. This is how this story is gonna end. This is sad. because I think I had wished I wanted that last drink to be something a lot more special than that. And so that was it. The next day, I called up work and I told them I had a problem. I called up HR.
Yeah.
I sent an email out to a local AA because I knew that's the only thing I knew about anything was Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was like my wife said something about it. So I was like, okay, I'll look into that because I didn't know there was any other way. And so I sent them an email and they sent me a link to a Zoom meeting that night. And I called into work because I was sick. I was sicker than a dog.
How did you handle that? Because those withdrawals are gonna, especially with the amount that you were drinking. Like, did you do a medical or no?
No, I didn't even know. Like I was so isolated from everything, or like didn't have any knowledge of what withdrawals were from alcohol, that I just did it at home by myself. And I went to work. I only missed one day of work. I went to work the rest of the week. I was
lucky because that shit could kill you.
I know that now.
Holy crap.
It was horrible. It was horrible. I was shaking. I was nauseous. I woke up and just we slept in separate beds, and we had slept in separate beds for quite a while, like 2 years. So that made things easier to drink too. But I woke up in puddles of my own. Like, I didn't know a human could get rid of that much liquid in such a short period of time. And then roll over, peel my shirt off like it was glued onto me, and then sleep in the dry spot of the bed, and then wake up another 2 hours later, soaked, peel that shirt off of me, put another one on, and then I have this wet bed, so I slept in the cold, warm spot the rest of the night. And then I would pull all the sheets down because I was so embarrassed, and I would let them dry, to just air dry, and then come back and sleep in the same bed the next night and like basically repeat that. I remember one night, it was like night 3 was so bad, I didn't even bother peeling off my shirt. I just sat there and shivered. It's horrible. Like
How did go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Answer the question. No, I was say, how did HR handle that?
They just said okay and told me that they have an EAP program, and that was it. It was like, that was.
Okay. I was going to ask if they offered you any resources.
They had an EAP program. It was an EAP program that I tried to use once prior to, and it offered like 3 counseling sessions, and after that, it was done. So, I mean, I have my own problems with what that package provides, because it's not really a support package. It's, you go for 3 sessions, they give you some printouts and say, here's your tools. They don't teach you how to use them. Nothing. I mean, you have to be willing to use them, but it wasn't very useful. So I didn't bother. I went to AA, my first meeting. My very first meeting was that night. I was literally 24 hours sober.
Okay.
And it was a guy's 45th sober anniversary party on Zoom, because it was
COVID,
the pandemic. That was my very first meeting. So I guess I listened to these people laugh and joke and whatever, and celebrate this guy's 45 years. And those are the 2 things I remember are all of the laughter and the smiles, and the other one was that he was sober for 45 years, and I said, it can be done. That was what I left there with, that it can be done. I don't have to feel like this anymore. He's just shown me that I don't. So, I started going to 4 meetings a week. I made a plan, and I started going to 4 meetings a week, and I joined an app called I Am Sober, And on day 6, I joined it. And so I started posting and commenting on other people's posts on that app. And I started connecting with those people. And there were people on that app that hosted a free online recovery meeting as well. And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to hop on that. And I was about 5 months sober. And I hopped on one of those meetings and I was like, this is it. I was missing something with AA. I felt like I was missing something with AA. I didn't feel like part of the herd, even if I tried to. I went to their hockey games, and there was something I was missing there. I didn't connect so much with the program, but the principles were definitely great, and I still live by the principles for the most part. Today, it was just not something that I connect. It got me to where I needed to get to until I found my people, and I found my people in this. So I started swapping out AA meetings with the free meetings that these people were providing, and these people were providing a meeting where somebody would pick a song and a topic for the meeting. And there'd be 20, 25 people, whatever, on Zoom, because this is all online. All my recovery's been online. I've been to 5 in-person meetings, and that was it. So, and then they'd break us out into like groups of 4 or 5, and everybody would talk about it. And it wasn't just like a one-way street where you would talk and then somebody else would talk and somebody else would talk. If you had a problem, you got to talk your problem out with this group of people that were there. So not only did I get to talk about and air my dirty laundry out with these people, I got feedback right then and there. And then I got their personal experiences and how it related to mine, and my recovery blew up. I started growing like a bad weed. Like you put Miracle Grow on the bean in the garden, right? And I just start sprouting. And so I started hosting meetings there, and I eventually had my home group in AA, which was the one Monday night meeting that I went to, and then the rest of them, the rest of the 4 meetings that I went to a week were all substituted with this group of people. It wasn't a program or anything. It was just people sharing life.
Yeah. And what was your wife's? Was she really supportive through all your meetings, your recovery? How did she support you?
She was really supportive. I stayed sober. That's exactly what she wanted me to do, was stay sober. When everything went down, she took my credit card. I had no access to money whatsoever. Like all of it was gone. I drove to work, and she gave me her credit card, so she knew everything that I was doing. And I still managed to lie and figure out how to buy smokes because I hadn't quit smoking yet. And so I had to figure out and wiggle my way through that one. And I did that by not putting as much gas in my tank because I'm an alcoholic.
Right.
I know how to get away with stuff. I'm a really good liar. I quit smoking at 7 months sober because I got pissed off at myself, and I did the same thing when I quit smoking that I did when I quit drinking. So I got really pissed off at myself because smoking started. I told myself I wouldn't smoke in the truck. I started smoking in the truck. I told myself I wouldn't smoke at home. I started smoking at home. I told myself I wouldn't smoke in front of the kids. The kids would fall asleep. I would smoke in the truck. Same stuff, same twisted thinking, right? So I got all pissed off at myself one day, and it was like 9:30 in the morning. I was out my regular smoke break, and I got halfway through a butt, and I was like, that's it. I'm fucking done. And I put the smoke out, and I walked into my office. I threw out the pack of smokes. I kept the one because it was my fuck you smoke. And I walked into my office, and I called my wife, and I told her, I said, listen, I've been smoking at work for 12 years or 14 years or whatever it was, right? And I told her the truth. And I said, if I tell you the truth and I get it all out, I won't smoke again. I haven't.
How'd she react to that
So
one?
she was like, what's that?
How did she react to that
What was
one?
that? Oh, there was a lot of silence on the phone. And she
Yeah.
said, basically, like, as long as you're not drinking. Um, she was super supportive of my recovery, and especially in the beginning. And then our relationship began to split. I started, I feel like I started having a backbone. I started gaining my own voice. I started getting a sense of self back, and then trying to navigate through that. And we weren't getting along, and I think she resented my alcoholism and where I all of the pain that I had put her through that she couldn't really find a space for. And so as I was growing, and she started resenting my friends, the people that I was spending time with outside of spending time with her, because now she wasn't as important as my recovery. And so our relationship started to split off. And shortly after a year into my recovery, we got a divorce, or we started the whole divorce process. I moved out. I still maintained that position at work. I was still in charge of the half the facility. I moved out, rented an apartment not too far away. We did the whole um, it wasn't we didn't go through lawyers. We went through a divorce mediator.
Mm-hmm.
And um like to this day I think our relationship is still pretty decent. We've gone through our ups and downs with the whole separating, and then with the kids and figuring those things out. But I mean, we managed
Yeah.
to write a divorce agreement in 4 hours with a mediator. So I
It's
think
always
we
nice
both
when you
did
can do
pretty.
that.
Yeah, I think we both did pretty good. We I think we both tried really hard to treat each other with respect, for if nothing, for the sake of the children.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I think where she's at now and where I'm at now, I think we're both in better places.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way, when I got my divorce, it was we were completely, we were married 12 almost 13 years. We got 3 kids together, and
Hmm.
it was we both agreed, and we agreed we were different people, and
Hmm.
we literally filed the paperwork on a Friday, and by Tuesday the next week, judge signed off on it because we were just 100% no this, no that, like we're amicable, like this is all so, and we are probably in the our best relationship that we could be in.
Yeah, and I think that's us too now. Like we're in the best relationship that we can be in. There's a little bit of give on either side. There's a little bit of take on either side, and it's more respectful than it's ever been. So I mean,
Yeah,
I it's there's been a lot of growth on both sides, and it's taken some time. It's been rocky, but not ever mean or disrespectful. Like we've gotten through those spots pretty easily, which I mean I'm grateful for, because it could have really been the other way and gotten really really ugly. So
yeah,
about I met Julie about 6 7 months into my recovery, and she was just starting out. And then she really got into this book called Rewired, and she'll tell you about it when she comes on. But anyways, she was asked, or she volunteered to host a podcast on Rewired, on Sobertown podcast. And so we we quickly became really good friends, and she asked me if I would be her co-host. And none of us had ever. She was like just a month in, just over a month in, and she just dove right into her recovery. And so we started hosting this Rewired podcast, and it's a book, and it's a recovery. It's like a Quit Lit. It's a like a recovery program kind of book.
You just
And
turned it into
so
a podcast.
we turned it into a podcast on request of the guy who runs Sobertown Podcast. And so we did that. We did 8 episodes of it. And then we kind of drifted away from doing that, but we wanted to start our own thing. And so year goes by, I get the divorce and separation and things like that. And it comes to September, the beginning of September of like 2022, and 2022. Is that what it? Yeah. And we say, okay, we're going to start a podcast, and so we gave ourselves a date, which was the end of September to launch. So we gave ourselves 30 days. We recorded 4 episodes, came up with a website, and figured it all out, and did the thing. And I figured out how to edit, and I figured out how to do audio, and basic enough to make it all work. And we've been recording podcasts like the Through the Glass Recovery podcast ever since. And what we wanted to do was give people a peek into the meetings that helped us so much. Like that's where our growth was. That's where we found connection. That's where we found our tribe. And that was the meeting style that really, really connected with us. And we wanted to give that to everyone. So we figured out a way to take the topic, get 4 or 5 people together, and then have a conversation, a discussion, and share your experience, share people's experiences on life based on that topic, whether it's authenticity or honesty or shame or guilt or grief, all of the stuff that we go through. Like, let's have a detailed, really cool, honest conversation about it. And so we try and drill down to the nitty gritty of one topic with a group of people. And that's how Through the Glass Recovery was born. And in that gap, we both took the recovery coaching courses through CCAR. And so it all became this live kind of entity. And I think you probably relate to that when you started your podcast, where it becomes like this live entity. It becomes this thing of its own, and you have to feed it and care for it and do all the things. And it became kind of like our passion or our purpose and that sort of thing. So like, it's just been a really wonderful, wild ride. Recovery is, we focus on emotional sobriety because I think that's the crux of the whole thing. How can I deal with life and my emotional responses in a healthy way? How can I deal with life in a healthy? How can I have a healthy emotional response to what the stuff life throws at me?
Right. Yeah, I agree. Because you got to learn. It's like when you get sober, it's learning to deal with life's ups and downs without a substance. Like, okay, how am I gonna? In the past, like for you it was alcohol. For me, it was like opiates and pills and stuff. And it was like, you're happy, you use. You're sad, you use. You're mad, you're used. And then it's like, now it's like, okay, how am I going to deal with this situation that life is throwing at me without a substance? And emotional right there is 100% something that we got to work through.
That's the crux of it all, right? Okay, my thinking. I lost my best friend when I quit drinking. I lost my best friend. I quit just over 1,000 days ago. 3 years is middle of March 14th. I quit just over 1,000 days ago. I haven't picked up since. This was there's no relapse, nothing. I've just kind of been straight shot, full bore. I don't know. I can't say knee deep because I'm like eyebrow deep in the whole thing. And I don't, that part, I don't regret any of it. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I made a lot of mistakes on my way to get here where I am right now, and that's okay.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, how did you lose him? Did he not want to get sober, or like how was that?
Who?
Your best friend, or was you talking about yourself?
No, alcohol was my best friend,
Okay, well, see,
right?
see, I was like, did you have a buddy that you used to
Yeah.
drink with? Like,
No,
did they not want to
no.
get sober?
Yeah,
Okay,
no.
I got you.
Alcohol was my. That was where I went to all the time, right? That was that was how I coped with everything. Just like you were saying, you went to pills, and a cousin dies. Oh, it's a reason to drink, and then everything became a reason to drink. Even mowing the lawn, or cooking dinner, or brushing my teeth, for God's sakes. It was everything. And then so you take that away, there is a lot of emptiness there. And I dealt with the emptiness. The first thing I did was I started baking bread. And I think baking bread saved my life. It was
Okay.
part of it. I started baking bread. And then it became one of those. I early on, I called it the void of nothingness. I didn't have alcohol there. I had these friends and people that I had my kids and my wife. I still felt alone, even though I was surrounded by people, because I wasn't connected with anyone. I never really showed anyone myself. I didn't know who it was, but I never showed anyone myself. All of my life was fake. So all of the validation and all of the praise or whatever it was, even the negative stuff, wasn't mine. It was just this facade I was putting on. So until I could learn how to like what was authentic to me, and that's like trial and error, because people told me I liked to fish, and people told me I liked to do this, and people told me I was good at that, so I just went and did it because people said that I was good at it. It was never, none of it was really my choice. Even my career, to a certain extent, my dad said, if you take this course in college, you'll make good money. So that's what I did. And that even wasn't, I'm going to say it wasn't my choice. Yes, it was my choice, but I gave that to someone else because I let them think they knew what was good for me at that time. That
Yeah,
makes sense?
yeah. I mean, that's cool though that you. So you just went straight shot, like I said, no relapses, no nothing. Just the day you put down, you just never picking up.
Never. I discovered that I love to travel. I discovered that um, I love people. I discovered that I like being alone with myself. I love to hike. I've been to Colorado a bunch of times now to visit Julie too, but I've been to Colorado a bunch of times now, and I've fallen in love with the mountains. So I ended up this past July, I I quit the job completely. Uh, it wasn't for me anyways, and so I realized that that whole thing, I need to do a whole makeover, a whole shift. This is like the whole life makeover, right? So, I mean, I'm pursuing recovery coaching full time if I can make that happen. I'm also
Mm.
looking for a job in Colorado if I can find one there, and move towards the mountains, because that feels like home. Every time I leave, my heart breaks.
Yeah,
And so there's a spot there, and I don't my my world has opened up huge. I feel like I've missed out on so much of life now that
yeah,
um, I just want to. I don't know. The words in my head right now are I just want to get some of it back, or but
yeah,
I feel like I'm living now finally, and that all in itself is a beautiful thing.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, we realize like we don't realize through our until we're out of our addiction and clear minded and sober, like what we missed out on, and the world was just passing us by, and we were just doing our thing. So the fact that we're able to just take back what we lost.
Well, you go from being a passenger in your life and a victim of your circumstances to being in the driver's seat and
Right.
in charge of the choices that you make. And it's a complete 360 to how I viewed everything before. So it's just that alone, owning my own decisions and having the ability to make them again without someone else's approval, because I needed that,
Yeah.
and still being okay with myself.
Yeah.
That's huge for this guy.
And you just got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep doing
And
one day at a time. Just keep doing it. One moment at a time, even though as cliche as it sounds, it's the only way to do it.
it is. It really, really is. And the growth, you don't know what happens until you put yourself back in that same uncomfortable position that you were in the last time, and you've thought through it and you've talked your way through it and you've griped about it and moaned about it and come to some conclusion that, you know what, I didn't need to take that personally, because I was really good at that, taking things personally, and then
Yeah.
having a reaction to that and making it all about me. And oh boy,
Mm.
it's amazing how calm I can stay now, even though the situation itself is tense, and I can feel the tension and I can feel how I want to react. But turning that into a response has been really, really huge for me.
Yeah. So just keep, you're in the driver's seat, remember, and that's all you can do.
Yep.
Man, that's awesome. I appreciate you coming on this last hour and just sharing your story and whatnot. It's really cool. That's why I love doing the podcast, is I get to talk to people from all over the world, and not just the United States and Canada. We get to talk to people from all over the world and just get to hear their story, because everybody has a unique story.
Yeah, we do.
It's not, it doesn't matter how many followers you got. It doesn't matter. None of that. Like, everybody's got a story to tell. So I always find myself, inspired at the end of one of these, just to be like, you know what? Like, all right, cool. This gives me motivation to keep going and to keep staying in the driver's seat.
Yeah, absolutely. I can
Yeah.
relate to that feeling, because after our podcast, we feel the same way. I feel the same way. It's like, yeah, I'm doing the
Yeah.
right thing here.
Yeah. It's like therapy.
Yeah.
It's like a meeting. Like, this is like a meeting for me. So
Yep.
at the end of the day, like, even though we know these episodes help other people, like, they help me. Like, I do this for me too. Like, I don't do it just for other people, but I do it for me as well, because, and I don't know, there's just something about it. And of course, and I'm sure you get that feeling too. Like, there's days where you don't want to record and you just like, man, I don't want to do this. Like, you're unmotivated, or you're pissed about something. And then you do the episode and then you're just like, all right, I'm
I feel
so
great.
glad I did this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Reinvigorated the whole thing. And it's
Yeah.
amazing what happens when you show up for one of these. I feel the same way. It's like therapy for me too. It
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
is. People are wonderful. Strangers in recovery. I've never met the kindest, most gentlest, biggest hearted people in my life. Strangers in recovery are like
Yeah.
sitting down with a brother or sister you never had.
And it's like, and you instantly connect. It's like there's no like awkward moments and awkward silences, and it's like some of those people you literally instantly connect to. Like, I have a couple of people where they've been on and we've talked every single day since. And
Right.
it's like you build those relationships up, and it's awesome, because it's like you never know who you're going to meet next, and you never
Never
know who
do.
you're going to build that relationship. And I've I've been honored to call a handful of guests, friends now, that we talk every day, and interact. And if we're having a hard time or hard day, we're on the phone with each other, this or that. So that's what this is about, is community. And it's about just helping others and letting others know, like, listen, if I can do it, if Steve can do it, like, you can definitely do it.
Yep.
And you're not alone. It's like, just biggest thing is you just got to pick up the phone and you got to start somewhere.
You start somewhere. I think that's
Got
where
to start somewhere.
that's it right there. You got to start somewhere. Um, get connected. I don't doing it alone, I feel like, is probably long, arduous, and
Yeah.
miserable.
You need accountability.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I know there's people out there that have done it alone, and like kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah.
Sharing this journey with other people and being vulnerable with someone else and crying with someone and being able to show up for someone else is an absolute gift. Both ways, both ways. I'll tell you, I wouldn't have done half of the stuff that I've done without the community that I've had, because I've always had a place to fall. That's where a lot of my strength has come from. I
Yeah.
have a place to fall where I never really felt like I did before.
Yeah. Well, Steve, tell us where we can follow you guys, where we can subscribe, where we can support.
You can follow us. You can find us at www.throughtheglassrecovery.com. That's our website. You can follow us on Instagram at Through the Glass Recovery. We're on Facebook, Through the Glass Recovery. We have a Facebook group there too that we just started up that's called Recover Your Way Through the Glass Recovery. So you can find us there. We're on Twitter, all the platforms, but mainly Instagram and mainly Facebook is where we do most of our work. We do have a YouTube channel, but I'm still working on figuring out how to push more content to it, because our podcast is only audio. So I'm working on ways to push some more content there. We've got about 50 subscribers on that one, on that little one. So I mean, it's something. It's a start, but like you said, you got to start somewhere. And you can find us on LinkedIn. Actually, we got about 800 followers on LinkedIn.
You know, that's everybody keeps telling me about LinkedIn. Like, man, you should totally get a LinkedIn, and I'm just like, I guess I never knew that it could be that successful with connections.
I started it
But
last year in January. I mean, it takes a while, but I met some pretty incredible people and got some pretty incredible podcast guests from that platform. So, yeah,
I'll check it out definitely.
you never know.
Right.
That's what it
What?
comes down to.
Yeah. Well, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah. We've all, you and myself and everyone else who started out on social media had zero friends and no likes and all the rest of it, and here we are tonight having a great conversation. Thanks for having me on, Jared. I really appreciate you.
Definitely. No, we appreciate you. Thank you. You know, we'll put all those links in the description of the episode, and that's when I started this, first I was like, no, it's gonna be audio only, and then something just kind of pushed me to do like audio video. But it is, YouTube is, for the longest time we have like a little under 300 subscribers on YouTube, and that only changed within the last month. We had like 50 subscribers for the longest time, and then I did one episode with somebody who was a very controversial topic, and that went to like 3,000 views. We ended up getting all of their subscribers overnight. It was crazy. So but YouTube is hard to push. It really is. It's hard to get into the algorithm. It's hard to get the views. Like, we use TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube as a tool, but like Facebook and our website, and Spotify app, like that's the bread and butter. But eventually maybe you'll get there with audio and video.
Yeah, we're on TikTok too. Same thing. It's their tools. I've met some amazing people from TikTok too. We've had people from all the platforms on the podcast. It's just another way to meet people, another way to make connections, and some are good, some last, some don't. That's just the way life is. And I don't know. It's a fun journey, man. It's a fun journey. Yeah. It's just beautiful to be here.
Yeah. So if anybody's interested in going on Through the Glass Recovery, go to their website, check them out, send them a message.
Yep. You can find us there. We have a newsletter too. Sign up for the newsletter. We have journal topics on the newsletter, links to the podcast every Monday when we release an episode. Sometimes there's a little PDF with a worksheet in there. We just for the new year, we included a worksheet that kind of helps you level up your life and see where your weaknesses are and your strong points, and you can work through. It's all personal development stuff, right? All of the stuff that kind of help you work through yours. And the website, there's a blog. Julie writes a wonderful blog. She's a wonderful writer. So
Awesome.
If you're interested,
check
it out.
Definitely check them out. And as always, if you are interested in coming on the Blacklist Podcast, go to theblacklistpodcast.com/contact and fill out the intake form. But without further ado, thank you so much again for coming on. That wraps up another episode of the Blacklist Podcast. We hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired and uplifted. And remember, each one of us has the power to spread hope and positivity in our own unique way. If you've enjoyed today's episode and would like to be part of the journey, here's how you can help. Make sure to follow us, subscribe on your favorite platform. Don't hesitate to leave a like and a comment. Every single interaction, it helps us reach more people and it helps trigger the algorithm. And of course, if you know someone who could use a little hope and positivity, please share the podcast with them. Again, thank you for being a part of our family. And remember that no matter what life throws your way, there's always a reason to hold on to hope. And until next time, signing off. All right.